The mansion was quiet that morning, the kind of silence that makes every little sound feel louder. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, reflecting off the polished floors. In the nursery, a tiny baby lay in a soft crib, sleeping peacefully. The baby belonged to the billionaire who owned this massive house, a man known for his wealth, sharp mind, and strict rules. He had everything anyone could dream of: money, power, influence. But there was one thing he valued above all else: order. The maid, a kind woman who had worked in the mansion for many years, moved quietly around the nursery, making sure everything was perfect. She loved her job, but more than that, she loved her young daughter. The girl was only 8, small and lively, with bright eyes that always seemed to be searching for adventure. She had grown up in this mansion, running along the long corridors, peeking into rooms she wasn't supposed to enter, and learning from the staff who treated her like one of their own. She was clever, curious, and fearless in a way that both worried and amazed her mother. That morning, the billionaire had a lot to do. Meetings, calls, decisions that affected millions of dollars. He trusted his staff completely, but he always kept a close eye on his baby. Today, however, a rare moment of distraction happened. The maid had asked him a quick question about the schedule, and in that split second, the baby was left alone in the nursery. It was just a few minutes, but in the eyes of the little girl, it felt like an opportunity she couldn't miss. She tiptoed into the nursery, her small hands barely making a sound on the wooden floor. The baby was lying on a soft blanket, reaching out with tiny hands that couldn't grasp much yet. The girl knelt beside the crib, watching carefully. Her mind raced. She had been told many times never to touch the baby without permission. But she was also curious. What if the baby rolled off the blanket? What if something happened while everyone was busy? Her heart thumped in her chest. She wanted to help. She looked around and noticed the ribbons lying on the changing table, soft and colorful. An idea formed in her mind. She would tie the baby gently, just enough to prevent him from crawling into danger. Her hands trembled slightly, but she was careful. She wrapped the soft ribbons around the baby's tiny arms, making sure he could still move but couldn't reach the edge of the crib. She stepped back and looked at her work, feeling a mix of pride and fear. She thought she had done the right thing, keeping the baby safe. Just then, a creak came from the hallway. She froze. The billionaire had returned earlier than expected. He stood in the doorway, his eyes wide with disbelief. The sight before him made his breath catch. His baby, gently bound with soft ribbons, looking up at the little girl with wide, innocent eyes. The girl's cheeks turned red, and she quickly tried to explain, but words failed her. She stammered, I was trying to help. I didn't want him to get hurt." The billionaire's first instinct was anger. How could anyone, let alone a child, handle his baby without permission? But as he looked closer, he noticed something he hadn't expected. The girl's eyes were full of worry, not mischief. She had acted out of care, not rebellion. He saw the careful way she had tied the ribbons, making sure the baby could breathe and move slightly. Her courage was unusual for her age, and it made him pause. He had never seen anyone approach a situation with such quick thinking, especially not a child. The maid rushed in, her heart pounding. She had been in the next room and heard the noise. Seeing her daughter and the baby, she froze for a moment, then hurried over. "Please, sir. She was only trying to help. She didn't mean any harm," she pleaded, her voice filled with both fear and hope. The billionaire turned his gaze from the baby to the girl. She looked back at him, eyes shining with a mix of fear and hope. He could feel the tension in the room, the unspoken question of what would happen next. He took a deep breath, his anger slowly giving way to something else. He realized that the girl had shown initiative and courage, qualities he rarely saw in children. And yet, the rules were the rules, and the baby's safety was paramount. He knelt down to the baby's level, carefully undoing the ribbons. The baby cooed softly, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. The girl watched anxiously, her small hands fidgeting. The billionaire looked at her and spoke in a calm, steady voice. "I understand you were trying to help, but you must understand, the baby's safety is very serious. Next time, you must never act alone, no matter how good your intentions are." The girl nodded quickly, relief washing over her. She had expected anger, maybe even punishment, but instead, she found guidance and understanding. The billionaire's reaction was unusual, and it made her see him in a new light. He wasn't just strict and serious. He was careful, wise, and capable of seeing the intention behind actions, even those that seemed reckless at first. The maid embraced her daughter, whispering words of comfort. She knew the girl had learned a valuable lesson that day, and she was proud of her bravery. The billionaire, standing silently, watched the two of them, feeling a strange sense of admiration. He had seen many adults make mistakes, but the way this child had acted, with a mix of courage and care, left an impression on him. For the rest of the morning, the atmosphere in the mansion shifted slightly. The little girl moved carefully, aware of the responsibility she carried, and the billionaire went about his work with a thoughtful expression. The incident in the nursery became a quiet reminder to everyone. Sometimes, courage and intelligence can come from the most unexpected places. And even in a house full of rules and order, a child's bravery could make a difference in ways no one imagined. The day passed slowly, the sunlight moving across the floors, casting shadows that seemed to dance along with the mansion's silent rhythm. The girl found herself thinking about the baby, wondering if she had really helped or just caused trouble. She remembered the billionaire's words and promised herself she would be more careful, but she also felt a spark of pride. She had acted on her own, and in some way she had made a difference. By evening, the billionaire found a quiet moment to speak with the maid. He acknowledged her daughter's quick thinking and bravery, and though he reminded them both of the importance of following rules, there was a warmth in his voice that surprised even him. He realized that strictness and compassion could coexist, and that sometimes the most unexpected actions could teach the most valuable lessons. As the sun set and the mansion settled into another quiet night, the girl lay in bed, thinking about the day's events. She had learned about responsibility, courage, and the power of careful thinking. She had faced fear, acted bravely, and come through it with her spirit intact. And somewhere deep down, she felt a new kind of connection to the billionaire, a respect that was mutual, unspoken, and powerful. In that quiet mansion, a new understanding had begun to grow, one that would shape the days to come. The little girl had stepped into a moment of danger with a brave heart, and in doing so had changed the way the billionaire saw her, and perhaps even himself. It was a day that no one would forget, a day that proved that courage and care could come in the smallest, most unexpected forms. The next day began like any other in the mansion, but the atmosphere felt different. The little girl, still thinking about the previous morning, moved carefully through the long corridors. Her steps were quiet, her eyes alert, as if expecting something unexpected to happen again. The baby was nearby, playing with soft toys on the floor, supervised by a nanny, and the billionaire was already in his office, focused on his work. Yet, the incident from yesterday lingered in everyone's mind. The maid, aware of the tension, tried to keep her daughter close, giving gentle reminders about rules and safety. "Remember, no matter what, you cannot touch the baby without asking," she said softly. The girl nodded, but inside, her curiosity and courage still burned brightly. She understood the warning, but she also felt a need to prove that she could act responsibly and carefully, not just react out of fear. The billionaire, on the other hand, found himself thinking about the little girl more than he expected. Her actions had surprised him, not because they were reckless, but because they showed a kind of quick thinking he rarely saw even in adults. He had always valued intelligence, but he had never seen such a mix of bravery, care, and cleverness in someone so young. That morning, while reviewing papers in his office, he paused and remembered the girl's determined eyes and the way she had handled the ribbons with care. He realized that sometimes guidance and patience could teach more than rules alone. In the nursery, the little girl observed the baby playing. She noticed how easily the baby could topple a toy or crawl toward the edge of a soft mat. Her mind worked quickly, considering ways to keep him safe without breaking the rules. She watched the nanny carefully, learning how she approached the baby, how she anticipated movement, and how she used gentle hands to guide play. Each observation was like a lesson, slowly shaping the way she thought about responsibility and care. Later that morning, a small incident occurred. The baby reached for a toy that had rolled near the edge of the playmat. The girl acted quickly, moving just in time to stop the baby from tipping over. She didn't touch the baby directly, just nudged the toy so that it was out of reach. The nanny noticed and smiled, giving her a subtle nod of approval. The girl felt a rush of pride but also a deeper understanding of how careful she needed to be. The billionaire, still working in his office, was informed of the incident by one of the house staff. He didn't rush in angrily. Instead, he walked slowly toward the nursery, curious to see how his young observer was handling responsibility. When he arrived, he saw the girl sitting on a small chair nearby, watching the baby with focused eyes. She looked up at him and nodded respectfully. There was no fear in her eyes now, only awareness and confidence. He watched silently for a few moments, studying her actions. She was attentive, calm, and careful. The baby was safe, playing happily with the toys she had arranged. The billionaire felt a sense of surprise and approval. He had expected mistakes or recklessness, but instead, he saw a child learning and applying responsibility in real time. It was unusual, refreshing, and even inspiring. Later, during a quiet moment, the billionaire called the little girl over. She approached cautiously, unsure of what to expect. He smiled slightly, the first real smile she had seen from him that felt warm rather than distant. "You are learning quickly," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Responsibility is more than rules. It is about understanding the situation, thinking ahead, and acting carefully. You have shown me that you can do that, but there is always more to learn." The girl listened intently, absorbing every word. She had always admired him from a distance, aware of his power and intelligence, but hearing him speak directly to her with guidance rather than reprimand was new. It gave her a sense of confidence, a belief that she could continue to act wisely, not recklessly. As the day went on, the billionaire continued to observe her in subtle ways. During lunch, he noted how she helped her mother with small tasks, how she watched the baby, and how she interacted with the staff. Each action was careful, thoughtful, and purposeful. He realized that her previous actions were not a fluke but a reflection of character. He also felt a sense of responsibility. The girl was learning about responsibility, but she needed guidance and encouragement, not just rules and warnings. In the afternoon, the girl had a quiet conversation with her mother. They sat in a sunlit corner of the garden, the baby nearby, playing safely with his toys. The maid explained the importance of thinking before acting, of understanding consequences, and of always being careful. She also encouraged her daughter to continue observing and learning, praising her for her courage and quick thinking from the day before. The girl listened, nodding thoughtfully. She felt a growing sense of pride mixed with a deep understanding of her limitations. Later, the billionaire invited the girl to his study. She entered with a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. He showed her his desk, papers, and tools, explaining how he managed responsibilities and decisions. He spoke slowly, emphasizing careful thought, observation, and planning. The girl asked questions, eager to understand. She wanted to know how to act wisely, how to make decisions that mattered, and how to be responsible without being reckless. He answered patiently, impressed by her intelligence and curiosity. As evening approached, the mansion grew quiet again. The girl sat by the window, watching the sunset and thinking about everything she had learned that day. She felt proud of herself, not just for her actions with the baby, but for the lessons she was beginning to understand about responsibility, care, and awareness. She realized that courage alone was not enough. Careful thought, observation, and understanding were just as important. The billionaire, observing from a distance, felt a growing respect for the little girl. Her bravery had caught his attention, but her ability to learn, adapt, and act with care was what truly impressed him. He realized that she was not just a curious child. She was someone who could grow into a remarkable person with the right guidance. The incident from the previous morning had started a chain of events that was slowly changing the dynamics of the mansion. creating a bond of trust, respect, and learning. That night, as the household settled into sleep, the little girl reflected on her day. She had seen, observed, and learned. She had acted with care, thought about consequences, and received guidance from someone she admired. She felt a new sense of purpose, a desire to continue learning and growing. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that her actions, both big and small, could have meaningful effects. In the quiet mansion, a small but significant shift had occurred. The little girl's courage and intelligence were beginning to be recognized, and the billionaire's understanding of responsibility, guidance, and trust was evolving as well. The events of the day were a reminder that even in a house of strict rules and high expectations, growth, learning, and connection could happen in unexpected ways. It was a day that no one would forget, a day that showed that bravery, care, and intelligence, even in the smallest person, could make a lasting impact. The following morning, the mansion buzzed with its usual rhythm, but there was an underlying tension that only a few could sense. The little girl awoke early, her mind replaying the lessons of the previous day. She knew that each choice she made carried weight, and she felt a growing responsibility not only toward the baby, but also toward the household that had trusted her. She dressed quickly, quietly, careful not to disturb anyone, and headed toward the nursery. The baby was already awake, giggling softly as he reached for his toys. The nanny smiled, happy to see the child in high spirits, and gave the little girl a nod of approval as she entered. The girl's eyes swept across the room, observing every detail. The placement of the toys, the soft mats, the small obstacles that could cause a fall. Her heart pounded, not with fear this time, but with a sense of purpose. She moved quietly, adjusting a pillow here, repositioning a toy there, always thinking 2 steps ahead. From his office, the billionaire observed through a small glass panel. He did not interrupt. Instead, he watched with a sense of cautious curiosity. The girl's careful movements, her attentive gaze, and the way she anticipated the baby's actions impressed him. He could see the growth from yesterday to today. She was learning, adapting, and applying her lessons. There was something extraordinary in her focus and determination, something that made him pause and reflect. Mid-morning, the billionaire called his assistant to deliver an unexpected task. He wanted the girl to observe and learn more about responsibility in real situations. The task was simple on the surface but required attention and careful judgment. She was to help organize a small area of the mansion where items were often misplaced. Nothing dangerous, but it demanded precision and observation. The girl accepted the task eagerly, understanding that each opportunity was a chance to prove herself and learn. As she worked, she noticed the importance of planning before acting. She didn't rush. She studied the items, thought about the best way to organize them, and proceeded carefully. She encountered small challenges. A toy out of place, a book with torn pages, a misplaced blanket, but she handled each calmly, thinking through each decision. With each success, her confidence grew, and so did her understanding of responsibility. She realized that even the smallest choices could have meaningful consequences. Meanwhile, the billionaire observed silently, making occasional notes in his journal. He had seen countless adults struggle with responsibility and decision-making, yet here was a child demonstrating patience, thoughtfulness, and intelligence. He began to see potential in her beyond her years. There was a spark, a rare quality that could not be taught but only nurtured. It reminded him of the importance of guidance and mentorship, especially for someone so young and impressionable. During lunch, the girl returned to the nursery, bringing a small tray of snacks for the baby. She watched him eat, making sure each bite was safe and appropriate. The nanny praised her quietly, noting her careful approach. The girl felt a sense of pride, knowing she was making a positive difference. She also felt a deeper connection to the baby, understanding that her actions, no matter how small, mattered greatly. The billionaire, intrigued by her progress, decided to test her in a gentle way. He created a small scenario where an unexpected problem arose. A favorite toy had gone missing, and the baby became fussy. The girl noticed the change immediately, observing the baby's movements, his sounds, and his gestures. She thought quickly and retrieved the toy from a hidden corner, calming the baby almost instantly. The billionaire watched, impressed not only by her quick thinking but also by her empathy and understanding of the baby's needs. She had not acted out of fear or panic, but with careful attention and genuine care. As the day continued, the little girl found herself growing more confident. She began to anticipate potential problems, thinking ahead about what could go wrong and how to prevent it. She adjusted the baby's environment subtly, ensuring safety and comfort without being intrusive. Each action was deliberate, thoughtful, and precise. The billionaire, observing from a distance, felt a mixture of admiration and curiosity. He had never seen such maturity in someone so young, especially in handling responsibility that required both intelligence and care. In the afternoon, the billionaire invited the girl to sit with him in his study. He wanted to discuss observations from the day and provide guidance on decision-making. She entered the room with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. He spoke calmly, emphasizing the importance of observation, thinking ahead, and understanding the consequences of one's actions. The girl listened intently, asking questions and sharing her thoughts. The discussion was not a lecture but a conversation, allowing her to explore ideas and learn actively. He also shared a story from his own childhood, explaining how he had learned about responsibility through small mistakes and careful reflection. The girl was captivated, realizing that even someone as powerful and wealthy as he had made errors and learned from them. It humanized him in her eyes and gave her a sense of connection. She understood that intelligence and careful thought were valuable, but empathy, patience, and learning from experience were equally important. Later, the girl returned to the nursery, carrying a small notebook where she had been recording her observations. She noted the baby's habits, favorite toys, and reactions to different situations. The nanny smiled, impressed by her dedication. The girl felt a sense of purpose, knowing that her careful notes and observations could help the household maintain order and ensure the baby's safety. She realized that responsibility was not just about action but also about understanding, planning, and learning. Evening arrived, and the mansion began to settle. The little girl reflected on the day's events, thinking about the tasks she had accomplished and the lessons she had learned. She felt a growing sense of pride, not in a boastful way, but in knowing that she had acted wisely, carefully, and with genuine care. She understood that bravery alone was not enough. Intelligence, observation, and empathy were equally essential. The billionaire, observing from his study, felt a rare sense of satisfaction. He had witnessed growth, learning, and maturity in a child who had started as curious and mischievous. He recognized potential not only in her actions but in her character. He began to consider ways to guide her further, knowing that nurturing her abilities could lead to remarkable outcomes in the future. Her courage, intelligence, and careful attention had created a foundation of trust, respect, and understanding. That night, the little girl lay in bed, thinking about the day. She felt a quiet excitement, knowing that she was learning valuable lessons and making a difference in the household. She understood that each action, no matter how small, could have consequences and that thoughtful observation and careful planning were powerful tools. She also felt a sense of connection to the billionaire, who had begun to see her not just as a child in the house but as someone capable of growth, understanding, and responsibility. In the quiet mansion, the day's events had shifted something subtle but significant. The little girl's bravery, intelligence, and careful attention were becoming recognized, and the billionaire's approach to guidance, trust, and mentorship was evolving as well. The lessons of the day were clear. Responsibility was not only about following rules, but also about understanding, empathy, and careful action. And for both the child and the billionaire, this shared learning was beginning to build a bond that promised growth, respect, and mutual understanding for the days to come. The morning sunlight filtered gently through the tall windows of the mansion, casting long shadows on the polished floors. The little girl woke early, her mind filled with thoughts from the previous days. She knew that the lessons she was learning were important and that her actions were being noticed. She dressed quietly, careful not to disturb anyone, and made her way to the nursery, where the baby was already awake, gurgling happily as he played with his soft toys. The girl knelt beside the baby, observing him closely. She noticed the way he moved, how his tiny hands reached for the toys, and how quickly he could lose balance. She arranged the toys carefully, making sure nothing could roll away or cause trouble. She felt a quiet pride, knowing that her actions were making a difference. She understood now that responsibility was not just about following instructions. It was about observation, planning, and acting with care. The nanny, standing nearby, watched the girl with a quiet smile. She had been impressed from the beginning, but over the past few days, the little girl had grown noticeably more attentive and thoughtful. The nanny knew that her guidance, combined with the lessons from the billionaire, was helping the child develop skills far beyond her age. She gave the girl a subtle nod, a small acknowledgement of her progress. From his office, the billionaire observed the scene through the glass panel. He had been considering the events of the past days carefully. The little girl's bravery, intelligence, and careful attention had already left a strong impression on him. But now he saw something more. She was learning to anticipate problems, think critically, and act with compassion. These qualities were rare, especially in someone so young, and he felt a growing sense of respect and admiration for her. Later that morning, he called the girl to his study. She entered with a mix of curiosity and nervousness, wondering what he wanted to show her this time. He spoke calmly, explaining the importance of planning ahead and considering different outcomes before making a decision. He asked her to think about small scenarios, to imagine what could go wrong and how she might handle it. She listened intently, asking questions and offering her own ideas. The billionaire was impressed by her thoughtful responses, noticing how she could understand and predict situations with surprising clarity. After their discussion, the billionaire suggested a new task. He asked the girl to help organize a small play area in the mansion that was often chaotic, with toys and objects scattered in ways that could cause problems. The task seemed simple, but it required careful observation, planning, and decision-making. The girl eagerly accepted, understanding that each challenge was an opportunity to learn and demonstrate her skills. As she worked, she noticed small details that others often overlooked. She arranged toys so that the baby could reach them safely, placed soft mats to prevent falls, and kept frequently used items within easy access. She thought about how each adjustment could prevent problems before they happened. The billionaire watched silently from a distance, noting her careful planning and attention to detail. He felt a sense of admiration for her ability to anticipate and solve problems in real time. In the afternoon, a small challenge arose. One of the baby's favorite toys had rolled under a piece of furniture, and he began to cry in frustration. The girl observed his movements and expressions carefully, understanding his need without panicking. She retrieved the toy safely, calming the baby immediately. The nanny watched quietly, impressed by her composure and quick thinking. The billionaire, who had been observing, felt a rare sense of approval. The girl's actions were not only practical but also compassionate, showing both intelligence and empathy. The girl returned to her previous tasks, continuing to arrange and adjust the play area with care. She observed the baby closely, noting patterns in his behavior and preferences. She began to keep a small notebook where she recorded her observations, thinking that understanding the baby's habits would help maintain safety and comfort. The nanny quietly encouraged her, praising her dedication and careful approach. The girl felt proud, knowing that her observations and planning were valuable. Later, the billionaire invited her back to his study. He asked her to explain her observations and thought processes. She spoke confidently, describing how she anticipated the baby's movements, organized the toys, and ensured safety. The billionaire listened carefully, impressed by her insight and clarity. He realized that she was learning not just through instruction but through careful observation, experience, and reflection. Her ability to connect thinking with action was remarkable for her age. As the evening approached, the girl reflected on the day. She felt a growing sense of responsibility, understanding that her actions could impact others in meaningful ways. She knew that courage alone was not enough. Intelligence, observation, planning, and empathy were equally important. She had learned that responsibility was a combination of careful thought, careful action, and understanding the needs of those around her. The billionaire, observing her quietly, felt a sense of satisfaction and hope. He had witnessed growth, learning, and maturity in someone so young, and he understood the importance of nurturing these qualities. He considered ways to provide guidance and mentorship, knowing that her potential was extraordinary. Her courage, intelligence, and careful attention had laid the foundation for trust, respect, and understanding that could shape the future of the household and her own life. As the mansion grew quiet for the night, the girl thought about the lessons of the day. She felt proud of her actions and thoughtful about her responsibilities. She understood that learning and growth were ongoing, and that each day presented new challenges and opportunities. She felt a connection to the billionaire that was built on mutual respect, observation, and shared understanding. The events of the day had strengthened that bond, creating a sense of trust and admiration that would continue to grow. In the quiet of the mansion, the day's events had left a lasting impact. The little girl's bravery, intelligence, and careful attention had become recognized, and the billionaire's approach to guidance, mentorship, and trust had evolved as well. The lessons of the day were clear. Responsibility was not only about following rules, but also about understanding, empathy, careful action, and thoughtful observation. Both the child and the billionaire had grown through these experiences, building a bond that promised continued learning, respect, and connection in the days to come. The final morning of the week arrived with a soft glow of sunlight spilling into the mansion. The little girl woke with a feeling of anticipation. She knew that today, more than ever, she would need to be careful, thoughtful, and attentive. The lessons of the past days had shaped her actions and thoughts, and she felt both a sense of responsibility and pride. She dressed quickly, moving quietly through the long hallways to the nursery where the baby was already awake, playing softly on a blanket. The girl approached the baby with careful steps, observing his movements and adjusting the toys around him. She noticed a small imbalance in one of the play mats and gently shifted it to prevent a potential fall. The nanny watched her closely, quietly impressed by her attentiveness. The girl felt a quiet satisfaction. She understood now that her careful actions could prevent problems before they even occurred. From his office, the billionaire observed through the glass panel. He had been thinking about the past week and the little girl's growth. Her intelligence, courage, and careful attention had already made an impression, but today he wanted to see her apply everything she had learned. He decided to give her a small, yet meaningful challenge, one that would test her ability to observe, think, and act responsibly. He asked one of the staff members to create a scenario where the baby's favorite toy would be slightly out of reach, and where small obstacles would require the girl to plan her actions carefully. When the scenario was set, he observed silently as the girl approached the situation. She paused for a moment, taking in all the details, thinking through the possible outcomes, and then acted. She adjusted the toys, moved the obstacles carefully, and retrieved the toy for the baby without causing any distress. Her actions were deliberate, thoughtful, and precise. The billionaire felt a sense of pride and admiration. She had not only learned lessons but was now applying them naturally and effectively. Later, he called her to his study. The girl entered, carrying her small notebook where she had been recording her observations and reflections over the past days. He looked at the notes with interest, impressed by the details and thoughtfulness recorded by someone so young. He asked her to explain her thought process, how she anticipated the baby's needs, and how she planned her actions. She spoke confidently, explaining each decision with clarity and care. The billionaire listened intently, realizing that her understanding of responsibility, observation, and empathy was remarkable. The discussion in the study became a moment of shared learning. The billionaire shared more insights about decision-making, problem-solving, and understanding consequences. He emphasized that intelligence alone was not enough. Careful thought, empathy, and learning from experience were equally important. The girl listened eagerly, asking questions, and sharing her observations. The conversation was not just instructional, it was a dialogue that allowed both of them to learn and grow together. As the day progressed, the girl continued to apply her lessons. She observed the baby, anticipating his needs, arranging toys, and ensuring safety. She paid attention to the small details, understanding that responsibility was about more than just action. It was about thinking, planning, and caring. The nanny and other staff members quietly noticed her growth and dedication. She had become more confident, thoughtful, and capable, showing qualities beyond her years. In the afternoon, a small challenge arose unexpectedly. A soft ball rolled under a chair, and the baby began to crawl toward it, risking a minor stumble. The girl noticed immediately, calmly retrieved the ball, and guided the baby back to safety. Her actions were smooth and precise without alarming the child. The billionaire, observing silently, felt a rare mixture of admiration and respect. She had learned to combine courage, intelligence, and empathy into action that was both safe and effective. Later, the billionaire invited the girl and her mother to a quiet room in the mansion. He wanted to acknowledge her growth and progress. He spoke about the courage she had shown, the intelligence she had displayed, and the careful attention that had kept the baby safe. He emphasized that while rules and guidance were important, true understanding and thoughtful action were even more valuable. The maid listened proudly, and the girl's eyes shone with quiet pride. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and understanding. The billionaire gave her a small, meaningful gift, a symbol of recognition and trust. It was a simple item, but it represented his respect for her courage, intelligence, and careful thought. The girl accepted it with gratitude, understanding the weight of the gesture. She realized that her actions had earned recognition not through obedience alone, but through thoughtfulness, empathy, and intelligence. Evening arrived, and the mansion began to quiet down. The girl reflected on the past days, the challenges she had faced, the lessons she had learned, and the growth she had experienced. She understood that responsibility was a combination of observation, planning, empathy, and careful action. She had learned that courage alone was not enough, but when combined with thoughtful intelligence and care, it could lead to meaningful results. The billionaire, observing the quiet household, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had witnessed growth, learning, and maturity in someone so young. He understood the importance of nurturing these qualities, providing guidance, and building trust. The little girl's courage, intelligence, and careful attention had created a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. He realized that he had found a rare opportunity to mentor and guide a young mind with extraordinary potential. That night, the little girl lay in bed, thinking about her journey over the past week. She felt proud of her growth and understanding. She had faced challenges, learned from guidance, observed carefully, and acted with thoughtfulness and empathy. She realized that every small action mattered and that careful planning and observation could prevent problems and create positive outcomes. She also felt a connection to the billionaire, built on mutual respect, learning, and understanding. The mansion settled into a peaceful silence, the soft glow of moonlight casting gentle shadows. The events of the week had left a lasting impact. The little girl's bravery, intelligence, and careful attention had been recognized, and the billionaire's approach to mentorship, guidance, and trust had evolved. Together, they had created a bond based on respect, learning, and understanding. The lessons of responsibility, empathy, careful action, and thoughtful observation had become ingrained, promising growth and connection in the days to come. In the quiet of the night, both the girl and the billionaire reflected on the journey. She had learned about courage, responsibility, and thoughtful action, and he had learned about patience, mentorship, and the extraordinary potential of a young mind. The week had transformed both of them, showing that growth, understanding, and meaningful connection could come from unexpected circumstances. The little girl had stepped into a situation with bravery and care, and in doing so, had not only protected the baby, but had also created a lasting impact on everyone in the mansion. As sleep finally claimed the household, the bond between the little girl and the billionaire felt stronger than ever. They had learned from each other, grown together, and created a foundation of trust, respect, and understanding that would guide their future interactions. The events of the week had shown that courage, intelligence, and careful attention, even in someone so young, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. The mansion, once a place of strict rules and routines, had become a place of learning, growth, and mutual respect. A place where even the smallest actions could make a big difference.